Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Ball Not Court Podcast host Cortez Paul, along with my co-host Kevin Carter. I want to thank you folks for tuning in today and listening to the show. Basically, we cover basketball, football, NCAA, or anything that's related to current events with a humorous twist to it, at least. You can follow the podcast at BIOC Podcast at X or Twitter. We're also on Instagram at the same name, BIOC Podcast. You go to our YouTube channel, that's also BIOC Podcast. Our Facebook page is Balls Not Court Podcast. So if you could please just give us a like, shout, comment on any of those, and definitely subscribe to our YouTube channel. And we thank you for listening and enjoy the show. Balls Not Court Podcast. Thank you very much. Welcome to the Balls Not Court Podcast. Cortez Paul is here. I am joined by the aforementioned Mr. Paul Mack and Mr. Brad Renner. Mr. Mack, how you doing this wonderful Wednesday evening, sir?
Doing all right, my guy. Recouping from a long weekend. MegaCon was in town, so me and my girlfriend spent the weekend at MegaCon. But no, it's good, man. It's good to be back. I know we had a week off last week. I know you were busy, flying around the United States, bunch of Magic games. So wasn't much to talk about last week, but it's Super Bowl week. I got my Vegas outfit on. I'm ready to go, baby. Let's go.
Hey, man, like you in gear mode, man. Went from MegaCon to gear up for Vegas, man. You're multi-talented there, Mr. Mack.
All you need is a cigar.
Exactly. Hey, for real, Mr. Brad Renner, how you doing this evening, sir?
Not too bad. Wish it was a little warmer outside, but
very true. How was trivia last night?
It was always good. 10 teams kept me busy. Always,
good, man.
Always a good night at the hole for trivia.
Absolutely. Well, good deal, guys. As Paul mentioned, we didn't have a podcast last week. I left the option up to him. As he mentioned, I've been known as a traveling man, going to watch a few Magic games and apparently making TV appearances. So mostly say it's pretty cool to see yourself on TV and your friends are blowing you up like, hey, you on TV again. I'm like, yo, what? So
that's the thing is you're not seeing yourself on TV. Your people are seeing you on TV and being like, hey, man, I know that guy.
Yeah, hey, I know him. Like, cool, man. Like, it's cool, man. People can point you out. I'm always I'm honored. Big Magic fan. So I always try to go to a few road games. Got one planned in March. I'm gonna go to Toronto, freeze my butt off. so
you gonna go link up with Drake this time?
Oh man, well, according to what he's been having on videos on stuff, I don't know if I should link up with him. So, but no, I'm excited. I'm gonna go to a few road games. So yeah, but nonetheless, big game is here, man. Super Bowl Sunday, Super Bowl 58.
Super Bowl.
Bittersweet week, man. There's only the last week of football, man.
Absolutely, man. So before we dive into all this stuff, man, I always like to kind of go crazy, and I'm gonna ask. I ain't even send these guys these questions, so I'm gonna put them on the spot. So I'm pretty excited about this. Super Bowl is big and dear to our heart. We big football fans on this podcast. Everybody's been on this podcast. Football is near and dear to their heart. Got their favorite teams and whatnot. Super Bowl Sunday. I want you guys to rank the Super Bowl experience top to bottom when it comes to the game, the halftime show, the commercials, and the food. And Paul, start it off. How do you rank the Super Bowl experience top to bottom? From
I feel like we live in a different time. Like I feel like they tease a lot of the commercials early now, and then we're in this because we're in the kind of this like not a lot of people have cable, so you're probably streaming it on something you're paying for, or whatever. So the commercials are never really what they used to be. Ever since Janet Jackson's titty came out, the halftime show is never what they used to be. So I mean, for me, I guess I would say the food, the game, the commercials, and then the halftime show.
Okay. Brad, your thoughts on that order? What's your thoughts? And then I give mine.
Well, my team ain't in it, so if the Steelers in it, I'm gonna sit there. I'm gonna watch. It'll be game, food, commercials. But since my team's not in it, it's commercials, food, game, and usually the halftime performance is some genre of music I'm not particularly fond of. So I usually try and tune into the Kitten Bowl on whatever channel that's in.
Ooh,
yeah. All right. Well, I know we're all around the same age, so we do know Usher. I don't know how much we are going to be tuning in to that. We will be watching, but I think that's all for the ladies. But my experience, I agree with you guys. My football team's not particularly playing, so particularly and applicable to this year. Me being the fat kid that I am, of course, food is number one. So I got to make sure the wings is on deck, nachos or whatnot, all that. The food has got to be on deck.
Oh, so, yeah.
I got invited to a few Super Bowl parties, so I'm hoping that the food is going to be pretty good. I'm calling my friends out. Hope they watch the beginning part of this podcast. Don't be serving some busted food, please.
Need that mac and cheese, pork and beans combo on deck.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Hey, yeah, like Paul said, pork and cheese, mac and cheese at combo on deck.
He ain't touching, he ain't coming.
Exactly. Gotta blend. But yeah, food, I'm gonna say, commercials, game, halftime show. I'm not really Usher's. He's talented. I'm not gonna sit there and go on my way. And if Usher come on shuffle, cool. But me going down a playlist and play Usher first, it's not happening. But that's I think that's my experience there. So to transition to that, because I think a lot of us put food in our top. What's your go-to food on Super Bowl Sunday? And Brad, you start. What's your go-to food on Super Bowl Sunday?
I don't know. Amanda likes making these little Big Mac sliders. So that's been a New Year's Eve Super Bowl menu item the last couple years that's been pretty much on point.
Oh, that actually sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
Mr. Mac, what's your go-to food on Super Bowl Sunday?
Man, I'm a big chicken wing guy. I'm a big I like buffalo chicken wing dip.
Yeah.
If you can make it into a dip, I could just dip stuff into it, chips, whatever. I'm all about the finger foods, man. Like I don't want a whole lot of stuff. I just want to be able to pick throughout the game. But usually chicken wings, some kind of dip, chips. I'm
dip your buffalo wings in buffalo dip.
Yeah, bro.
Absolutely. Yeah, bro. I'm with you on the wings. Got to be wet. Got to get some ranch on them. Got to make sure you have the carrots and the celery with it. But as Paul mentioned, finger food, whatnot. Bag of chips for sure. Definitely, you can give me some spicy nacho Doritos. One day when I take that.
Chips and salsa.
Yeah. There's a few Super Bowl parties I've been to the last few years that one of my friend's wife made these really good ham and cheese sliders. And she used some kind of butter, garlic that on the rolls. That's things are addicting, man. You go through 5 and you don't really know how many you eating them. And then you still walking kind of slow because you consume so many.
I got one for you. Have you ever left a Super Bowl party because the food wasn't up to par?
Oh, that or I drink more.
I've left because the game wasn't up to par.
Very true. Brad, I'm gonna say I if the food is not good, I kind of like I drink.
You
more
compensate.
I compensate a little bit more and whatnot, but I have been to some Super Bowl party where the food has not been up to par, and it's quite frankly disappointing. I remember one time I did order some pizza at a Super Bowl party because I was like, I want to really have the food. I'm like, hey, I'm ordering some pizza. Like, yo, what? We got food here? I'm like, I'm not really a big fan of this food. And that's when having too much vodka, and I got a little brave telling my your food stinks. And to quote my boy, Mr. Paul Mack, this food stinks. So I ordered some pizza. So I was like, look at me like, yo, you really are on one. I said, yeah, I'm on one. So it had happened. So good. All right, good stuff. Big game Sunday, 6:30 p.m. It happened at Legit Junior Stadium in Las Vegas, Nevada, home of the unfortunate Las Vegas Raiders, but they're not there, so it don't matter. Good for them. Unfortunately, the other team that's in my conference or division is there. So the Kansas City Chiefs is representing the AFC, and who is representing the NFC is the San Francisco 49ers. So how they got here, the Chiefs' journey, they was in the first round, played the Dolphins at home, and what seems to be like a frozen tundra game. Very, very cold, very snowy out there. They get that game 26-7. Beat the Bills on the road 24-21. And then stymied, just stifled the Baltimore Ravens, who came in as the hottest team in the NFL and beat them on their home field 17-10. The San Francisco 49ers, of course, they're number one seed in the NFC. They had a bye. And then they went on to face the winner, the Cowboys and the Packers. The Packers ended up making it a close game, but ended up being a defeat for them, and they ended up losing that game 24-21. 49ers go into next week. 49ers actually came from behind against the Lions, and they defeat the Lions 34-31. So, Paul, let's talk about this. What's your thoughts about the Chiefs' journey getting to where they are and where they at again to be in the Super Bowl?
Well, I think with the way things started, it's one of those kind of how it started versus how's it going. And I think we knew once the Chiefs got in, especially when they locked up that home field, having the real cold game against Buffalo, those kind of things helped. I thought Buffalo was, had a chance to knock them off. But then they go into Baltimore. Kudos to that defense, man. That defense is real.
The defense is nasty.
I think that's the difference of this Kansas City Chiefs team is that they're defense first. I think that's going to cause a lot of problems, and it'll be interesting to see how they match up with the 49ers. But what they did to the Baltimore Ravens, to Lamar Jackson, I mean, that was a tough one. I mean, that was Lamar's opportunity to show that, he's ready, he's here, he's the MVP, and man just got stuffed, and it's wild to see because for a long part of the season, the Chiefs offense just looked just not like the Chiefs offense, but their defense came through, and boy, are they happy to have Jones back. They're happy to get all that figured out because that man in the middle really sets things up, and having a lockdown corner on the outside that can pretty much cover anybody. It's a different Chiefs team, man. It's crazy to see. I didn't think they'd be here. I thought between Buffalo and Baltimore, one of them would have got them with their pants down and taken advantage of it, but can't count out Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. Here they are again. Travis Kelce's having a career postseason. He completely scorched the Ravens, and a team that pretty much led the league in drops all year is figuring it out at the right time. And you got Pacheco running the rock. They're not turning the ball over, and they're letting their defense do what their defense does. It's crazy because right now, if they could just have any lead. Before they used to get on you and you have to play from behind, but now they can play They can play the field goal game. They can play the close game. They have Harrison Butker. He's a knockdown kicker. You want it to be close and grind it out, they can do that now. And if you get behind, you're in even bigger trouble because they got some lockdown guys on the outside as well as a hell of a pass rush. So, kudos to the Chiefs. Here we are again.
And I think the Chiefs can make a mistake and get away with it the way that their defense is playing. They can be a little bit more aggressive because that defense has been proven itself that it can step up when it needs to and get a stop if the game's on the line.
Yeah, man. It's one of those that you look at, and their defense is – it's weird to say this about a Pat Mahomes-led team is that, it's him in these clutch situations that's closing these games, but his defense is really coming through. And for them to just hold just Lamar Jackson, I don't know what Lamar Jackson was doing there. I just thought he was trying to pass a little bit too much and try to – I don't know. He just didn't run the ball as much as he did. But you got to give credit to the Chiefs, man. They pushed this dude 20 times. And he had a pressure rate. They got a pressure rate of 37. And they got 4 sacks on this guy. And the Ravens were 3-11 on third down conversions. So
two picks.
Yeah, 2 picks.
I think they got real creative at the way they were disguising coverage. From watching that game, it looked like Lamar knew the blitz was coming, but he didn't know what they were throwing over the blitz in coverage. And it looked like he just got confused a couple times and threw a couple easy picks.
Now, Brad, you watched this team during your division. Obviously, you're very familiar with Baltimore. So, I mean, did you just Steve Spagnuolo just did a good job of just trying to neuter his lanes that Lamar Jackson could run, or was it Lamar Jackson that looked? Did he look up to you, or what's your analysis of that?
No, Lamar, he looked right. It looked like the Chiefs were very disciplined in their lanes in what their assignment was. They all didn't turn. If you watch, nobody turned their back on Lamar. Even the linebackers dropping back into coverage. They knew where they were supposed to go, what area they had to cover, but it wasn't like what the other teams have done. Quarterback drops back, these linebackers turn their back. Like the 49ers have a issue doing, when that quarterback drops back, they turn their back and they run to their spot, then they turn around. But by that time, even Jared Goff took off and had a decent run or two against them.
Yeah.
I think people forget, and this is near and dear to my heart, but Steve Spagnuolo was the defensive coordinator of the New York Giants.
He was.
Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. So guys got a pedigree, and I mean I'm happy for the guy, but he knocked off the undefeated Patriots in the Super Bowl. He had a great defense then, and he has a defense right now that's doing a lot of the similar things that Giants defense was doing, when they won the Super Bowl, pressuring the quarterback, forcing mistakes, have a lockdown guy on the outside, and it's crazy how similar those defenses are right now. And it's just, I think people just forget that this guy's won Super Bowls already as defensive coordinator. And he's a really good defensive coordinator when he gets the right pieces in place. And seeing the Chiefs turn from an offensive dominant team to a defensive dominant team is a really crazy thing to see over the last few years.
Absolutely. Paul, what's your thoughts on this? Is Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson just had golden opportunities, but once again, Pat Mahomes is outshined the quarterback class. So, what does this say more about Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen? Does it say more about Pat Mahomes?
I mean, it's just one of those similar to Tom Brady, man. It's like who do you want in the big game? And that's all it boils down to is the other guys are just yet to win the big game. There's no other quarterback in the NFL right now who's won the big game more than Patrick Mahomes. I mean, I wouldn't bet against him at this point. Like he gets here, And it's what are you going to do? Because he's not even playing aside from against Baltimore. I mean, he torched Baltimore. Him and Kelsey were connecting from jump, and that was causing a whole bunch of problems. But he's not even playing Patrick Mahomes-esque football as we've seen in the last 3 or 4 years. He's much more managing the game. He's using what's around him. He's not forcing stuff down the field. And like how Brad was saying, he can make a couple turnovers and it's not gonna hurt him because the defense is locking the other team down. So they're always in the game somehow, whether they're scoring a bunch or their defense is shutting the other team down. It's really crazy to see, but Josh Allen's window's closed. Lamar Jackson's window's obviously opening. Based off the performance he had this season. So we'll see. I'm sure those two will see each other many times in the future. But for right now, I mean, there isn't a quarterback I'd take in a big game other than Patrick Mahomes.
Gotcha. Agreed.
Pat, let's talk about the 49ers journey and how they got here. And they're 2 games, man, it kind of raised some cause concern. They came from behind, especially against the Lions that was up about that opportunity. So first, speak about the Lions' opportunity blowing that game, and then speak on how the 49ers get to where they are and where they at with that. So what's your thoughts about how they got where they are to here?
I don't think the Lions blew their chance as much as people want to buy into it. The Lions played the way they've played all year. 4th and short, 4th and long. They go for it. That's just the way that they've done it. It just so happened that the 49ers made a couple bigger plays. Reynolds dropped a couple key balls in key situations on 4th and 3, and I think like 3rd and 8. Where he could have gone for 15, 20 more on that 3rd and 8.
Yeah.
I think the Lions, just shortchanged their shot. And Brock Purdy stepped up and showed him that whether they're up or whether they're down, he's in the game. He's not quitting. He's not throwing in the towel. He's going to fight tooth and nail until that clock reads 4 zeros.
There you go. For sure. And what do you think about their comeback, the 49ers comeback, and Chris McCaffrey is just eating, man. So talk about him and what you see in him and what he did in that game.
Well, C-Mac's always going to be C-Mac. Whether he's running the ball or they get him in those bubble screen, short little go routes, he is hard to package. Are you going to burn a cornerback that you could use to double cover one of their wide receivers? You going to put a linebacker on him that we all know he can blow by? Then you got Juszczyk, who can come out of the backfield, who's practically a second or third tight end, depending on the formation that they got. I mean, I feel like this Super Bowl is going to be whose weapons show up, because both sides are locked and loaded. It's going to be who can stop who at that key moment.
Gotcha. Yeah, Chris McCaffrey in the finish up with 132 scrimmage yards, 2 rushing touchdowns to help that comeback against the Lions to clinch a Super Bowl berth. Paul, I was going to ask you, Brock Purdy, what has he shown you during this playoff run? I know there's a lot of noise around him the whole season and the postseason, but what has Brock Purdy showed you? I mean, I know it's still 1 game left to go, and it's on the biggest stage of them all, but what has Brock Purdy showed you so far?
I think Brock Purdy showed the world that he's more than just the game manager that people think he is. I know that's been the thing on his name. Oh, he just manages the game. He's got a bunch of talent around him. Look who he's got on his team, this and that. But Brock Purdy in that second half, he had 48 yards rushing for the game. I could not tell you the last time Brock Purdy had that many rushing yards. I mean, he ran when he had to. He extended possessions. He ran on 3rd down. I mean, as good as Christian McCaffrey played, I mean, the Lions running backs did better. I mean, Montgomery ran for 93 yards. Jahmyr Gibbs ran for 45. Jamison Williams ran for 42. I mean, they had 3 rushing touchdowns. Jared Goff threw 1, no turnovers. It's just Brock Purdy turned it on and made plays when he had to, and he didn't rely upon anybody else. Brock Purdy literally made play after play. That was just Brock Purdy. And I think people look at Brock Purdy and they look at all the weapons, Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, and it sucks that it discredits him a little bit because he's on such a stacked offense. But if he didn't run for 48 yards, we ain't talking about this right now. This is a whole different conversation we're having. So, he extended a lot of those drives in the second half. He did what he had to do, and that's just hats off to Brock Purdy for just saying, hey, look, I'm the quarterback. This is my team. I'm going to make the plays that are going to get us to the Super Bowl. So hopefully the competition changes now because he did things that none of these other guys have done.
And he didn't look uncomfortable at all in having to come back in those games. He looked like he belonged there. He looked like he knew exactly what he was going to do. He wasn't nervous. He wasn't rattled. And he took his team down the field and put up points on almost every one of those last possessions in the second half against.
You would have thought the way he came out after halftime that it was 0-0. He didn't come out
brand new ball game.
Scores. You know what I mean? He didn't come out looking like, all right, guys, we just got to get down and get one. Like, he came out guns a-blazing, and he came out there running. And I mean, having a quarterback run for almost a first down every time he runs, I had 9.6 yards a carry. That just shows you how every run he had was important, and Detroit did not expect that. That was not in the game plan at all. Mm-hmm. And that was literally just Brock Purdy having to make a play. And that's all what it boiled down to is he made the plays. The defense held in there and they kept Detroit off the board for a good little bit to get the Niners to catch up. But that was just Brock Purdy making plays, getting them in a position for, the Christian McCaffrey to get a touchdown, for this and that to bring that team back. But that's just Brock Purdy willpower, man. And that changes the conversation as to where he ranks as a quarterback because, he hasn't really played from behind a whole lot. He had that one game where Baltimore kind of, stifled him early in the year on national TV, but, it is what it is. But with the big lights on him and for a chance to be in the Super Bowl that he didn't get to partake in last year because he got hurt in that game against the Eagles, hats off Brock Purdy.
Yeah, I feel like if Purdy doesn't blow his UCL in the first drive or two of that game last year, we're looking at a rematch this year.
Yeah, no, that's fair to say. It's just unfortunate he went down with that injury right now. So he helped get his team back to the promised land, and it's a lot of storylines that's going to be coming out this game. And I'm gonna go with you, Brad. What's a storyline for you as far as this game? Either team, you can choose either team that intrigues you. What's the storyline for like the Chiefs or the 49ers? One that particularly intrigues you.
I'm gonna go with Chase Young. Is Chase Young going to be that dominant defensive end he was at the beginning of his career? Or is he going to be that soft defensive end that we saw against the Lions, where they were just practically pushing him where they wanted so the running back could either blow inside or blow outside of him?
Nah, that's fair to say because as you mentioned, the Chiefs' offensive line is up there as being one of the best in the league, and the way Pat Mahomes get the ball out. So that's an interesting storyline to where's this dominant Chase Young that we're gonna see. This first round talent that we have, that he's got that talent to do that. So good storyline. Paul, what's the storyline for you in regards to the Kansas City Chiefs? What's the storyline for you over there?
I mean, it's gonna be the defense, right? I mean, this is the classic, unstoppable force versus immovable object. I know the Chiefs defense or the Chiefs offense has always been the the thing that everybody would always talk about, and the defense was kind of the Achilles heel, but now it's the opposite, right? Like if the Chiefs get that kind of lead on the 49ers, I don't think it's a game, because that defense is just absolutely wild, especially with the way they pressure the quarterback, the way they hold down on the outside. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's going to be, Chris Jones, those guys up front, just being able to, put pressure on Brock Purdy and just seeing if he can continue to make plays when he has to. I know that, they could probably stuff the run. I know they're not worried about on the outside. They got some, L'Jarius Sneed out there. He's a lockdown corner, so I know he'll be probably covering either Debo or Ayuk. And you got to worry about the tight end a little bit, but for me, it's going to be Chris Jones in that defensive front. I think if they can control the line of scrimmage, they can make this game a tough one for the Niners. And I think it can get out of hand a little quick, especially considering how the Lions just ran the ball all over that Niners defense, and we've seen what Pacheco can do. So I think it'll be a lot of Pacheco early. You're going to open it up for Travis Kelce over the middle, and then who knows from there. But like I said before, they're not scared to play the field goal game either, so they can play field position, and they have confidence in their defense that the Niners necessarily can't move the ball the way that the Niners have all season. So we'll see what Steve Spagnuolo and that defense can cook up, but definitely going to be the Chiefs' defense. Very important on this one.
Gotcha. My storyline is I know it's the different makeup of these teams since the rematch of Super Bowl 54. Jimmy Garoppolo was the quarterback then. Some of these similar pieces are still there. So there's familiarity there amongst these teams. Now that you have the Chiefs being a more defensive-minded team, that score was 31-20, so Chiefs was able to put points on that 49 defense. This 49 defense is – both of these defenses are top in the NFL. So I'm interested to see, the familiarity, how that's going to play. I'm thinking that probably the first half is going to be low scoring, and then the second half we're going to see fireworks because they're used to each other. They know each other.
Yeah, they're going to make the adjustments.
Exactly. And I think they're going to figure it out in the second half. So I'm kind of just foreshadowing here. This is just me. Like I said, my opinion is worth 2 cents. I just think it's going to be a slow start to the game. So just be aware of that because of the familiarity with each other. So that's my storyline with it, is that the rematch from 4 years ago. And do the 49ers come back and get revenge, retribution? Do they come back and be victorious because of the rematch there? So it's definitely a lot of storylines in regards to that. So I'm excited to see where that goes. So we'll see what happens. But I just think being a rematch from 4 years ago from Super Bowl 54, just kind of decide, see, hey, this is like a Boston match, a rematch. Let's see the game plans, the adjustments, and the thought process and who's outwits who and everything. So very excited to see
how different these two teams are from 4 years ago.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think the Niners were more defensive minded 4 years ago. Chiefs were more offensive minded 4 years ago, and now it's a complete flip. Now it's a complete flip. Mm-hmm. So it's gonna be interesting. The matchups on the field, they match up well. So this should hopefully be a competitive game. But yeah, no, it's interesting how time does that to you, man. Like, it's got to adjust with time. Niners got one of the best offenses we've seen, and the Chiefs statistically probably have one of the best defenses we've seen, especially for the Chiefs. So I'm excited, man.
Absolutely. Paul, what's your thoughts about the strategy for the Chiefs defense? What's your you think would be their strategy in regards to going against this top-notch offense?
I mean, I think you have to not let Christian McCaffrey beat you. So I think they're going to look at the game against the Lions, and they're going to say to themselves, all right, look, if it's going to take Brock Purdy rushing for 50 yards for them to beat us, that's something that we can deal with. We're not going to let Christian McCaffrey scorch us for 150 yards, 200 yards from scrimmage, 3 touchdowns. We're not going to let that happen. We're going to keep everything in front. We're going to pressure the quarterback like we've been doing all year, and we're going to make Brock Purdy beat us. I know he's riding high from a week ago. I know he did all the things he had to do to get that win. But if I'm the Chiefs, Brock Purdy has to beat you.
Absolutely. The Chiefs rush.
Look at it.
Yep. The Chiefs rush defense allowed 4.6 yards per carry. Chris McCaffrey is a beast to deal with. So, pause. Definitely lean in the right direction is make Brock Purdy beat you because their pass rush is fantastic. As we mentioned in previous podcasts, second in NFL with 57 sacks on the season. You see what they did. Lamar Jackson, who's a running threat quarterback. So very chess match like to see what they're going to do in regards to trying to say, hey, shut down or try to neutralize. It's hard to shut down Chris McCaffrey, but try to neutralize him and then let Brock Purdy beat you. Brad, I'm going to ask you in regards to the 49ers, their defense is really good, but they're going against Pat Mahomes, the guy who we mentioned in the last few podcasts. When it comes to these plays that break down, he scrambled, you get the first down. He's best in NFL at that. What did you need to do? I know you called out Chase Young, but what else do they need to do to try to neutralize Pat Mahomes from these scramble plays and potentially try and get these first downs and limit them to not getting these first downs as much?
They just basically have to stay disciplined. They've got to stay in their lane. They can't let him break containment. And you got to make sure these linebackers, if they're playing man, they've got to make sure that they can keep their eye in the backfield while they're dropping back to make sure as soon as they turn around, he doesn't take off for 5-6 yards a pop. But we all know when Pat Mahomes takes off, it ain't 5-6 yards a pop. You're looking at 15-20 yards a pop.
Yeah. Nah, for sure. And Paul, I'm going to get with you on this question here. So, I mentioned about the Chiefs pass defense being one of the better ones led by L'Jarius Sneed. They got a lot of options on that end on the 49ers side of the ball. I'll let you go ahead and break that down and you name off these options that they have on the 49ers side of the ball and what they must do to try to neutralize these passing threats.
I mean, I'm assuming Ayuk is their big play guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm assuming you're going to have him start on Ayuk, but the issue that you're going to have a lot of times is they move Deebo Samuel in ways where they can try to get him the ball quick off the line of scrimmage, whether it be a slant, whether it be a screen, and then he's just a human bowling ball once he gets the ball. So, it's going to come a lot. I think it's going to fall a lot on the linebackers. I think L'Jarius Sneed will be fine on the outside. It's really going to boil down to those linebackers being able to keep everything in front, not letting Deebo get into the open field, or McCaffrey for that matter, on those wheel routes and stuff coming out the back as well. And then also you got to worry about the middle, with a Gardner dealing with a tight end that can break you open too. So, you got Kelsey out there. It just takes a couple positions to get him the ball, get him rolling. If him and Mahomes get rolling early, that's always tough because Mahomes just knows how to put the ball, where only Kelsey can get it. I mean, some of those throws they had last week against Baltimore were just crazy. Back shoulder, falling out of bounds. Just anytime you need a big throw, Kelsey's always there. But also with George Kittle, he causes the same problems from the other side. So, but Kittle is mostly going to be a bigger play guy. So like George Kittle is a guy who you'll see him, he'll get 4 or 5 catches, but he'll have like 80 yards receiving.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you got to monitor the tight end. The tight end, the big plays are always what they look for. So I think if you could eliminate the big plays, because obviously the key about a big play is the quarterback's going to kind of sit in the pocket a little bit longer, and I think that's where the Kansas City Chiefs pass rush can hopefully take advantage of that. If you're Kansas City, is you need time for some of these plays to develop. And I think the Chiefs, they're a good tackling team on defense. So I think like someone like Debo can't. Hopefully, you can keep him under wraps. He's not going to break a lot of tackles and hopefully get a lot of big plays. But that's kind of the thing is they can turn a small play into a big play, or if Brock Purdy gets time, he can turn a big play into a huge play. So if you're the Chiefs defense and you're that pass rush, you have to just stay disciplined, hold the outside, keep Purdy in the pocket, and then hopefully the guys behind you can do their job. But I'm not concerned about the Chiefs pass rush. I'd be more concerned about the middle linebackers and those kind of guys, because that's where the Niners like to attack. And I think that can cause some issues.
And I think not Brock Purdy. I think as much time as Mahomes and Kelsey have spent together, they are the masters of the busted play. It's almost like they know exactly where they want each other or where the other one should be when a play breaks down, where the opening is. And it never fails.
It's like schoolyard football, right? It's just like just run and just, hey man, just get open and I'll find you. Like just go.
And it's always positive yards. That's all you need.
Yeah.
And it never seems it's a mistake when Mahomes throws Kelsey's direction in a busted play.
Just how we drew it up.
up. Yeah. And this is mentioned that this is the Chiefs offensive line that only taking 28 sacks. So this is a big part of that for the busted plays, is that they have so much cohesion among one another, and they just when a play break down like that, it just Pat Mahomes just figure it out, man. He's just a beast of trying to find the right guy, and most likely not, as you mentioned, Brad, it's Travis Kelce on the receiving end of that because of that chemistry.
It's almost like they have on their his little play sheet, hey, we need a play that kills 37 seconds. Yeah. I'm just going to run around, you follow me, and I'll throw it to you.
Yeah. No, it's definitely strange for sure, man. Brad, I'm going to ask you this question here. If you are Andy Reid, what are you attacking? What are you trying to game plan? Like, what do you see like, oh, I can exploit this? Is there something that you see that they can go at the 49ers?
The same thing probably every sports writer and journalist in the United States, the run game. You're going to run them to death and you're going to make them pull everyone up into the box to stop the run, because Pacheco is going to run like Sonic the Hedgehog, chasing rings. And then once they come in, he's going to start picking them apart with the pass.
All right. Good points.
Like, you always look at the last opponent. What couldn't they stop? Because if they couldn't stop it then again, they've got 2 weeks. So we'll test the run. And if the run don't work, then we'll start testing the pass. One of them's not going to be on par.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's go into the S factors and talk about the S factor for each team. We'll select one for each team and talk on them. Mr. Matt, who's your S factor? And we'll start with the Chiefs. Who's your S factor for the Kansas City Chiefs?
I'm going to go with Pacheco. I think Pacheco has to get off early. They need to really get him going, establish the run. He's a guy that kind of sets the tone for that offense. I think his physicality can really beat up the defense. So, I wouldn't be surprised if, he gets 30 carries this game. But you have to just get him the ball, get him 3 or 4 touches out of the backfield, screens, little dump passes, whatever you got to do. But he's the big bruiser, because we know how their wide receiving core is. And aside from Travis Kelce, we don't know who else can really make a play. So for me, it's got to be a heavy dose of Pacheco early and often, and that's just what I would do. I would just hand him the rock, let him run around like a kid whose shoes are too big and just stomping out there.
This is Isaiah Pacheco. Has got 935 rushing yards from the season, 4.6 yards per carry, 7 touchdowns. So good S factor pick there. Brad, who's your S factor from the Chiefs?
I'm gonna go L'Jarius Sneed. Is he gonna be able to cover those weapons? Is he gonna be able to drop off his coverage to help make a big play, stop a big play, get a key pick? But it's L'Jarius Sneed. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't end the game with at least one or maybe even a couple, maybe should have been, but just slipped through his hand.
Gotcha. This is L'Jarius Sneed, who held passer ratings that went his direction to a 55 passing rating. So, excellent choice for S factor. My S factor for the Chiefs is going to be Chris Jones. This guy that got 10.5 sacks on the year. The way to kill a pretty offense and get into their heads is to sack the quarterback. Brock Purdy is still a young and upcoming quarterback. I know there's been a lot of tags about him being a game manager, and he has kind of like signs those critics to get to where he's at now. But if Chris Jones can get to him, hit him, just kind of get into his little ear, make him overthink a little bit on the biggest stage of the game, that kind of affects the way that you can play. You got all these weapons, but you can't get the ball to him. You're overthinking because Chris Jones is right there. Just you hear footsteps, and just split seconds is everything. So I think the defensive line can really control that. The Chiefs' pass D has been fantastic. You saw Lamar Jackson was overthinking things. Josh Allen had a fantastic game. But for the most part, you got Lamar Jackson that just looks shell-shocked. If Chris Jones can lead this engine to this high-octane offense, which is the 49ers that Kyle Shanahan leads and orchestrate, it's just hard to just you got the words to say you want to say. It's game planning how you want to run things and everything like that. But once you get sacked a few times and hit a few times, it's hard to kind of get through to that. You can get through it, but you think too much more because you worry about where the hell is Chris Jones? Where's Chris Jones? So so that's my 2 cents on that. Go ahead, Brad. What you gonna say?
I was gonna say, even the great quarterbacks, look at Tom Brady in some of those Super Bowls where he was getting whacked left and right, and you could tell he was uncomfortable. And that Giants Super Bowl that they lost, the Giants just hounded him. Even if they didn't get to him for a sack, they got more than enough pressure for him to start thinking, I've got to get rid of this ball quicker, and quicker leads to mistakes because you're not reading correctly.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So imagine, as Paul mentioned earlier, about Brock Purdy was able to run the ball, but you get out to these linebackers and they get you. You're not getting these big runs that you got. You got 9 yards per carry last week, but you're getting like 2 or 3. You can't move the ball. You got all these talented weapons around you. You start to really overthink. And then your guy you just mentioned, Brad, L'Jarius Sneed, pick, interception, pick 6. Because defensive line really got into Brock Purdy's and that offensive line head. You send double teams and actually hedging off a running back or a tight end to help block on Chris Jones. This is what defensive line can really control that game, man.
But if I'm the 49ers and Brock Purdy's scrambling for 3 yards, I'm calling that a success. If he's going forward, not going backward, that's a success.
Oh, absolutely. I just wondered that. But here's the thing, too, with that you mentioned, Brad. Like, so I'm guessing we don't want to get into a field goal with Pat Mahomes, who we claim is probably to be the next up-and-coming quarterback. Because we're speculating here because, like I said, we know the 49 defense is just as good. But if we're getting to where we get like the field possession game and everything like that, I'm betting on Pat Mahomes to break a big play more than Brock Purdy.
Oh, absolutely. And Patrick Mahomes has already proven that 13 seconds is too much time on the clock.
Yeah, big fact. So, I get you. You're right. 3 yards is better than nothing. As compared to he was busting 9 yards 2 weeks ago against the Lions.
And I think that would actually hurt the Chiefs' psyche too. Like, man, we had him for -6 and he just put up 3.
Yeah, you're right. No, you're right. You're right. And so this is why I said this game become a chess match, because both these teams got fantastic defenses. So, like, you know, if he does get these 3 yards as opposed to 9 yards that he was getting, you know, it just, well, where does it paint the picture out? Because it's not a negative play. It is a positive play. So let's just go from there and just play the field possession and time possession game. But I just know that if Chris Jones is making you overthink like that, it's gonna be interesting to see how that happen. If Chris Jones get a couple of quarterback hurries and a sack and a hit, and he's figuring it out against some of this talented, 49 offensive line, like this is interesting, man, for sure. Let's go to the S factor for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Other way.
We're going to the Niners now.
That's why. 49ers now. See,
there we go.
See,
we're on the right page.
Thank you. I knew when I saw, I was like, hold up. Too many Celsius over here. Sorry. 49ers. So, Brad, start that off. Thank you for catching me, guys. That's why they pay y'all the big bucks.
That's right. I don't know. For me, it's a toss-up. It's either Debo, C-Mac, or Purdy. But I'll go with Debo, because Debo's a little banged up.
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to see early season Debo, where he's the bowling ball, just taking everybody out on every play, making the big plays? Is he able to run the way he wants to run? Is that shoulder good? Is he going to be able to make those hard, tough, contested catches? Or is he going to, turtle it at the last second and try and pull in so he doesn't take the big shot? Because with that Chiefs defense, that big shot's right around the corner. All it takes is one throw a foot too high and he's going to take one.
Absolutely. That's a good point. Mr. Mack, who's your S factor for the 49ers?
I'm gonna go George Kittle. I think George Kittle needs to show up, needs to make some big plays over the middle, down the field. He's huge in the run blocking game as well. He's one of the few tight ends who I think takes pride in run blocking. And against that defense, you're gonna need all hands on deck to be able to get McCaffrey into the open field. So for me, the Kittle-Kelsey matchup, two of the top tight ends in the league going at it. Kittle's got to outshine him. And I think the winner of that tight end matchup is probably whose team's going to win the game, because they're probably converting on third downs. They're doing all the things that they have to do. So, I'm going to need George Kittle, 8-9 targets, 5-6 catches, a touchdown. But for me, it's definitely going to be George Kittle. This is his opportunity. They're still hungry from last year. They still have that sour taste in their mouth. He's a big WWE guy. He's a big wrestling guy. So needs to have his little persona out there, and he needs to do what he's got to do, and play the bad guy, whatever it is. But it's his time to shine and kind of show that he's the next in line. Kelsey's getting a little longer in the tooth. He's getting a little older. Someone's got to take that crown from Travis Kelce as who's going to be the next best tight end. And I think George Kittle's opportunity is right now, and he's had to show out and have a big game.
Gotcha. It's the guy you mentioned about Travis Kelce. This is why I'm going to go with Fred Warner. Fred Warner needs to shadow, keep an eye on Travis Kelce. Also need to watch where Pat Mahomes go. There was about 9 years ago that a linebacker did win Super Bowl MVP.
It's true.
Fred Warner can put his impact on the game and really make a stamp on here and really try to neutralize that. They got the defense around him, as we mentioned, the pieces. Nick Bosa, they have Chase Young, they got Eric Armstead. I mean, their cornerbacks are deep too. Shavarius Ward. So
Dre Greenlaw.
Exactly. They have a lot of pieces to do this. Fred Warner's got to be the catalyst, though. It's got to be him. Pat Mahomes get free too often. I was hoping I was going to see Patrick Queen step up last week. Didn't happen. Isaiah Simmons didn't happen. All these linebackers that these Ravens have to try to neutralize Pat Mahomes and Travis Kelce, it didn't happen. So guess who turn it is now? Mr. Warner. Lights on you. Let's see what you can do. And I say this as well, too. Both of these teams are playing in close proximity where they're going to have their fan bases there. It's going to be a lot of representation. It's not going to be – there's definitely going to be good representation for both teams. But Fred Warner's my guy. He's the S factor. That's got to really lay his imprint on the game. And for them to notch a Super Bowl victory and get a retribution from 4 years ago. So before we make our picks, let's keep the people waiting. Let's transition over to Paul. This guy stinks. Let's keep the people waiting.
Oh boy!
I thought we forgot.
We did not. I literally planned it. They got to wait for the
things. Couple of things on the docket today.
Oh, buddy.
One, what the hell happened to Pro Bowl weekend?
Oh my God.
Why are we even having it? Why is giving it to Florida, giving it to Orlando? Is it just so that players have reason to go to Disney World or Islands of Adventure, Universal Studios? Because that whole event is dog shit. I watched some of the highlights of it, and I can give two shits about a closest to the pin challenge, a dodgeball game, how many fucking punts you can catch while holding balls in your arms, David Njoku doing a backflip off of a fucking trapeze in a fucking lake trying to catch a ball off a jet ski. What are we doing?
Oh, that was Puka Nakua.
Well, David Njoku did like a fucking backflip off of a boat or some shit. I don't know. Either way, what are we fucking doing?
No, I think it needs to go back to old.
I
like the old skills challenge where you had, the quarterback challenge, how far you could throw it, the accuracy, and all that. That's fun. The wide receivers.
Mayfield won the quarterback thing. They did a fucking accuracy challenge or some shit, and Baker Mayfield won. Are you fucking kidding me? What are we doing?
Didn't Dan Orlovsky fucking come out in suit and tie and do the same thing and beat everybody?
I mean, the best part of the whole thing was the announcers. You had Dan Orlovsky out there. You had RG3 in the booth who was just saying some wild stuff.
Yeah,
there was a point where somebody, one of the announcers, mixed up a guy who I think it was a guy who plays for the Saints, and he's like, "Oh, I thought that was Jahmyr Gibbs," and RG3 was like, "Oh, what? Because we all look alike."
Wow.
On national TV, this man said, "Oh, I don't. What are we doing?
Awkward.
What is naysayer?
Awkward.
No, I mean that shit sucks. I don't even have anything else to say about it. It's just fucking stupid. And
they did sell out.
If we're not gonna do actual skill events that show how good people are at their position or whatever, like Justin Tucker played tic-tac-toe against another guy. Like who wants to watch kickers play tic-tac-toe? Like what are we doing?
I want to see Sean Taylor lay out a punter on a fake punt again.
I want to see you can make a field goal from 75 yards. I want to see you can kick it farthest. I want to see that. That's cool. But I don't give two shits about tic-tac-toe.
Oh, absolutely.
It fucking sucks. So Pro Bowl weekend, NFL, fix it or get out. Because that shit fucking sucks. And if you bought tickets to it, you're an asshole.
They didn't even have practice open to the public this year.
Really?
Yeah.
No, we tried to look. That's how we went the one year, and we got all of our met AB and Rosie Nix and DeCastro and all them.
What are they even doing? Are they playing flag football now? What are they even doing?
Yeah, it's flag football.
Yeah, they're playing football. Isn't it like a slap in the face that they're going to Orlando now? Like that's crazy. That like here we just put in Orlando. So now Orlando get their hopes up. Like we're gonna get a football team because we're hosting Pro Bowl. No, we're literally just
no.
Craps of the
Orlando.
crap.
This is gonna sound bad, but I'd rather Orlando host the Special Olympics than
the Pro Bowl.
Than the Pro Bowl right now, because I'd much rather watch those kids try their hardest and win at something than a bunch of overpaid, professional athletes come out here and literally just come here for a free ticket to Disney World. It's bad. It's bad. But anyway, enough of that. The real winner this week, someone near and dear to I'm sure Cortez's heart, and we didn't really touch on this the last couple of weeks. We've been busy with other things, but you may have heard the news that a young man, well, not really a young man, but a man by the name of Glenn Doc Rivers. This man was an advisor to Milwaukee Bucks head coach Adrian Griffin, who had a record of 30-13 as the Milwaukee Bucks head coach. 3 or 4 games better at this point than they were last year. And somehow, some way, my man Doc, the advisor, weaseled his way to get Adrian Griffin fired with a 30-13 record. This is a man who has only won one championship, and it was in 2006 with the world's first Big Three, and a man who has a playoff record.
Oh boy,
of 111 wins and 104 losses. So he's basically almost 500 as a playoff coach. And on top of that, so here's a little list for you. NBA head coach playoff records when in a series with 3 wins. My man Doc Rivers is 16 wins, 33 losses when his team has won 3 games in a series.
Joe Pie hole.
He is the absolute worst at closing out games. He's the absolute worst at winning series. I mean, he won his stat sheet is wild. The guy's been coaching for 14 God knows,
Magic,
25 years,
Clippers,
half a goddamn
Sixers,
century.
And the Bucks.
He only has 1 NBA Finals, 1 championship, and then he won the Eastern Conference Championship once. So in nearly a quarter century of head coaching, this guy has 2 banners. 2. And this is the guy that you bring in to replace first-year head coach Adrian Griffin. And this is a term I'm sure Cortez might know. I heard someone use this word the other day. But Doc Rivers is guilty of just straight dirty macking. Doc Rivers is the kind of guy that he'll probably date your best friend's ex-girlfriend. He'll probably do all that shit because it's there and it's available. He doesn't want to go get it.
Tony Parker and Brent Barry. Oh, I said that out loud. Sorry.
Because if resume gets you coaching jobs, I don't know how Doc's done it. I really don't know. I mean, 1 championship in 25 years, 1 Eastern Conference title in 25 years, basically a 500 playoff record, the absolute worst record when you win 3 games in a series, when you have to get into a closeout game, absolute worst record of all time. In fact, here's a list of people with a better record than Doc Rivers. Darvin Ham, he's 2-2 in closeout games in the postseason, 50% win percentage. George Karl, 13-13, 50% win percentage. Steve Kerr, 23-11, 67.6%. Solid. Mike Malone, 6-4. Joe Mazzulla, 2-1. Greg Popovich, 33-14.
Clutch.
Eric Spoelstra, 21-11.
He's a damn good.
And then my man Doc at 16-33 in closeout playoff series.
That's who I want to play.
2.7%. That's basically saying if you get to game 7,
you lost.
You're good. You're on to the next round if you're playing against them. Oh, it's fine. We're playing against Doc Rivers. Don't worry about it. This game's in the bag. And this is a man who had the big 3 in Boston. He had, Kawhi and he had Paul George later on there towards the end of his run with the Clippers. He had Chris Paul, Blake Griffin. He had all these guys. In Philly, he had Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons.
James Harden.
He's had all the talent, but not a lot to show for it. So I could go on for hours about my man Doc Rivers dirty macking on Adrian Griffin. And all I know is just if you're friends with this guy and you got a wife, just keep him away because he'll probably take her too. But
this is still your girl. Trey Songz on his playlist.
Mr. Steal your job.
Can we just change this segment to Dirty Mackin'?
Yeah, straight up. It might be. That might be the thing.
Hey, his last name's Mac, so hey, Dirty Mackin'.
It might be. But I don't know if in the history of my life, of all the jobs I've had, of all the things I've done, I don't know if I've ever seen somebody get fired for doing a really good job. So I hope Adrian Griffin gets another gig. If not, I hope he bumps into Doc Rivers in the street and punches him in his face.
So hey, before you play your sound bit, Paul, can I add on to this?
Yeah, go ahead.
The NBA they announced him to be the Eastern Conference coach to lead the Eastern Conference, and he said he could not accept it. He's gonna let the coaching staff take it. But how ridiculous is that? Adrian Griffin led that team to that record, but they named Doc Rivers to be the coach because they can't do Joe Mazzulla because they're number one team, obviously, from both years, so they can't repeat that. So the second best team is the one that coaching staff need to go. So Doc Rivers said, "Nah, I'm gonna let the coaching staff do that." So you can tell, obviously, stuff again in his ear. He feels guilty, but yeah.
I'll do you one better. The Doc Rivers is 1-4 since taking over the Milwaukee Bucks. He's only won one game, and that one game is why he was in the position to coach in the All-Star game. He literally won the one game that would have got him head coach of the All-Star game, and then he's also lost 4. They've lost to Portland. They lost yesterday. I mean, they are not good.
Yeah, they've been all road games, so I know they're going home. I'm not trying to defend Doc, but he getting all the salt he needs to, but they're getting some home.
And as much as Doc Rivers sucks, the Milwaukee Bucks as an organization are currently paying 3 head coaches. 3. They're still paying Mike Budenholzer.
Yep.
They're still paying Adrian Griffin. And now they're paying $40 million to Doc Rivers to literally not win them a championship.
I don't know how that happened, but it worked.
The Milwaukee Bucks and to Glenn Doc Rivers, all I have to say.
Oh, brother, this guy's sick.
That's all I got.
Oh, Doc Rivers. Good segue into this guy's Stink segment led by our own Mr. Paul Mack. Yeah, a lot to say. That topic was super hot fire, like his boy Eli Manning. Oh, I know you saw that.
I've seen those
Before
bars.
we go to the Super Bowl, did you see that, Bart? Brad, did you see that video with Eli Manning?
No, I didn't see that.
Oh, man. He was like, yeah, so Tom Brady to go. Psych, I beat him twice. So he said like that. He was going to get super hot fire. It was so great. It was so great. Look it up. It's fantastic.
I'm going to have to.
Yes, sir. All right. Now we get to the moment of truth. Super Bowl 58. We get done watching Usher halftime show. He's singing "Yeah" and all the joints that he sang back in 2000 when we was all going to the clubs and stuff like this. Lil Jon come out to the stage screaming "Yeah" like 20 times. Commercials is fantastic. Probably gonna be Doritos having the best commercial. I'm just throwing that out in the rooms here. We got to pick a winner. Super Bowl 58, Las Vegas. Who is going to be a Super Bowl winner? And Brad, I'll start you first. Who is going to be the Super Bowl winner out of the 49ers and the Chiefs?
I want it with all of my heart to be the 49ers. But I'm pretty set that it's going to be the Chiefs.
Gotcha. Paul?
How about
who you got?
Before I make my choice, how about the selfishness of Taylor Swift announcing a new album just the week of the Super Bowl? What is she doing? Why can't she just let it happen? You can't just let it happen.
Well, regardless from what she said, it was going to happen either at the Grammys or the concert she just played.
Doesn't matter. She should have waited. If she loves Travis Kelce, she would have waited. Instead,
well, she even shot him out at the Grammys. I'm just kidding.
No. So
shout out Killer Mike though.
Shout out Killer Mike straight up. But
go ahead, Paul. I'm sorry.
All that being said, I think it's the Niners. I think it's the Niners' year. I mean, they've been one of the best teams all year. They've overcome injuries. They've overcome adversity. They've overcome every hurdle that a team should go through to be in this position. And with their head coaching, with their team finally being healthy as opposed to last year where they potentially could have won the Super Bowl last year had they had a quarterback to throw the ball.
Or even two quarterbacks that could throw the football.
Anyone. Put Christian McCaffrey at quarterback, figure it out. But this is their time, and I'm going to take the San Francisco 49ers. Niners by 10.
All right.
I'm okay with that.
There we go. All right, so 49ers and the Chiefs. The Chiefs have once again got here. Model consistency of Pat Mahomes figuring out and get his game to the big bowl. This guy is going to be one of the greats when it's all said and done. He's figuring it out. We know his receivers have led the league in most drop passes. Somehow something's working in the postseason. They're figuring things out. Travis Kelce is playing out of his freaking mind. Chiefs look fantastic. On the other hand, the 49ers, why they had to buy, they found ways to win. But, man, it's been it's been not convincing for me to see what they have here. AFC has a lot more talent that they play against. NFC, they got this going on for them where they have these teams, the Packers that is up and coming. The Lions is up and coming as well. Man, I want the 49ers to win this game.
I do
the
too.
Broncos fan in me want them to win this game. But boy, it's like Star Wars, man. Just the darkness has returned. And I hope I am wrong. I really hope I am wrong.
The Empire will fall.
The 49ers are going to find that unguarded exhaust pipe to shoot the X-Wing missile rocket down to blow up the Death Star.
Brock Purdy, I am begging you to be Luke Skywalker. Figure it out, please. Please figure it out. Broncos fan hate me saying this, but the Chiefs going to win by a field goal. And I hope that I am wrong. I cross my fingers. I hope that I'm wrong. But somehow the Chiefs will win this game. And I will hate it. I would absolutely hate it. Because I literally picked Baltimore to be here. Baltimore is supposed to be here, but they're not. And somehow Pat Mahomes will fail again, and he will somehow figure this out and get this team another Super Bowl. And I got to do it for another year here, Chiefs fans.
I feel like every Super Bowl comes down to this. A late in the fourth quarter, deep throw down the field, and a lame-ass pass interference.
And a go-ahead field goal.
Yep.
Especially with Patrick Mahomes, that shit seems to follow him around. Like he gets some wild play, like some wild flags in the fourth quarter. I don't know why or how, but I don't know, man.
That's beyond crazy, man. But Paul, I hope we come on this podcast next week, and I hope we celebrate your pick being right. I really do.
I do too.
I listen. This is the one time I want you to be right. I want you to be right, Paul.
You got me. Yeah.
I'm rooting for your pick, Paul. How about that? Me and Brad both are rooting for your pick.
I got the colors ready for next week. Right here.
The boys.
Right here.
That's what I'm talking about.
I got my Niners colors ready.
Now listen. Now if the 49ers, they won't do this, but the 49ers come out to Famous with Kanye West and Swiss Beats, they won't do it. But I'm not making this about Taylor Swift. It is what it is. I think we kind of been good about Taylor Swift to the end of the show, and we still fit her in here. So it's all good. I love T Swift, man. She's an awesome person. I just hate that. Like it's just it's the NFL broadcasting team that bring her on to the front. Like let that girl enjoy the game. Stop putting the camera on her.
Cortez only has about 998 more times on screen to catch up.
You're coming for her. You're coming for her, pal. You're coming for her.
She got me beat, man. But I will say this. If the 49ers win, I am sharing that Kanye West and Taylor Swift picture of the VMAs. I will change my profile pic. It will happen. I will piss off the Swifties. I love you guys.
Thumbnail for the next episode.
Exactly. I will piss off the Swifties. I know they hate Kanye. I will post that picture. Yeah, let's go. All right, guys. Anything else we need to add? I think we're good. We're at an hour 16.
Good, man.
Heck yeah, man. So we'll be back next week to cover it. Recap everything. Whoever been brought into the limelight. So best luck to teams, not Chiefs. But shout out to both the teams how they got here. So let's close this bad boy up. So once again, make sure you stay in tune for next week. We'll definitely recap it. You can follow the podcast page at Twitter or X. You can go to BIOC Podcast. Our YouTube channel is also BIOC Podcast. TikTok BIOC Podcast. Our Facebook's Balls Not Court Podcast. Our Instagram is Balls Not BIOC Podcast. So multiple ways you can get us. You can find me at N_CP, Mr. Mac.
Yeah, I'm gonna do something one of my buddies did the other day. He shouted us out on his podcast. I'm gonna shout him out on our podcast. Shout out to my man Saul, my man Big Ross, and the Get It How You Live crew over there. They have a nice little podcast. If you're into current events, politics, that whole thing, give them a like and a follow. But for me, I'm on X at _Paul_Mac, and I'm on Instagram at thepaulmac520.
Absolutely. Shout out to Saul and Get It How You Live podcast. He was a guest on here, and we got to get him back on here, mostly for basketball season.
Oh, yeah, he'll be ready.
He'll be ready. But he'll be ready. Our good Knicks and Magic debate. So, but no, he's an awesome dude. So I'm looking forward to having him back on here. Mr. Renner.
Yes, sir. Nope, you just catch me at the 19th hole at 8:00 on Tuesday, slinging some trivia knowledge at you.
There you go. Sorry we ain't got Thomas on here so he can get his OnlyFans, but if you heard him before, his OnlyFans is he's got a good Valentine's special going on, 55% off. He had a cute picture where he drank a martini with another dude, so he's popping right now. So get the show at Anchor, anchor.fm/Cortez-Paul. You can go to iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Stitcher, iHeartRadios, Google Podcasts. That doesn't exist anymore. Anchor, wherever you find a podcast, as many guests to say, you can find us before. There's a lot of avenues to get the content. I will be doing a show with the Hardwood Nation, at least a partial show. I don't know if y'all know Shaq jersey is being retired next week at the OKC Thunder game. It'll be Orlando's one and only national televised game, which is BS. Luckily, Shaq's jersey retirement session or ceremonies after the game, so I will be leaving the arena and catching the train back to Claremont. So, hear my thoughts on that. Reaching out to a couple other guys. I think I got like a Houston Rockets guy that want to get me on the podcast. So, but yeah, any guys you want to grab and have on the show, pause. I'm pretty sure he'll be getting on some podcasts as well too. We're always glad to cross promote and help. Brad is always a contributor, so every now and then he pop in and grab his brewskis and whatnot. So baseball's coming around, so we got the baseball podcast. Get my guy on there,
sir.
We'll definitely
only another week or two. Pitchers and catchers report.
He's excited. So listen, we really definitely trying to push some content out there. So we appreciate you guys listening. Enjoy Super Bowl Sunday. Be safe. Drink responsibly. Thanks for
none.
No dirty macking. So speaking for Brad Renner, Mr. Paul Mack, and Cortez Paul, this is the Balls Not Court Podcast, BLC Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, have a good night.